Hello, everyone. Let's do a quick little sound check. Make sure everyone can hear me. Like, thank you all for joining us today, and we'll give it just another second here or two. Still got a couple people I think haven't quite logged in yet, and we'll be ready to run here in just a minute. All right, looks like we pretty much. I think we got everybody who's coming on. So again, I would like to thank you all for joining us today. It's going to be a good day. Hopefully, you'll leave here with some good information, and we'll kind of take it from there. So first off, I think I'd like to do a brief introduction. My name is Mark Ottinger. I'm the owner and broker of Alexander Realty. We've actually been around we just celebrated our 25th anniversary as a company. I've been licensed for about 30 years, which in this business, that actually kind of makes me an old timer, I hate to say. But yeah, things seem to be rolling along well. Again, we just had our 25th anniversary party, so that was real exciting. Kind of give you some background as to when I got started, how I got started. It pretty much started out as an investor. Owned a few rental houses, and one day decided, I just want to be my own agent, so I could handle my own transactions. One thing led to another. I decided to start doing this full time. We were sitting at the right place at the right time back in 2008, 9, and 10. I don't know if you remember. Back then, we had a real big housing crash. Well, fortunately for us at that time, since I started out in the investment side, I was doing some sales work for Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, Bank of America, and a bunch of other banks at that time. So, like again, just sitting right place at the right time, and all of a sudden that thing just blew up on us. I went from pretty much just myself being an independent agent in a 200 square foot office to it seemed like I just blinked my eyes, and we had a team of 17 people. I had 325 listings, and we were closing about 55 to 60 transactions a month. And that ran for probably 5, 6, 7 years. And man, it was like drinking from a fire hose. At one point, I was the largest foreclosure agent in St. Louis. We're dealing with Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and again all the other big banks. It was right in the heart of it all. Man, like I said, that ran for probably 5, 6 years, maybe even 7 years. Well, because it's hard to tell because it slowly started to taper off. So as it tapered off, we just kept going with our normal retail sales, and pretty much got us to where we are now, which is we are running around high 90, about 97, 98 agents. So it's really good for us. Makes us a big company. So we can do big company stuff, but yet we're still small enough that I can do a lot of hands-on and really get in and help the agents out a lot. Our office is located on Main Street in historic St. Charles. We're right on the corner of Boonslick and Main. We actually picked this location just because, well, for a few reasons. First off, Main Street's fun. So it's a fun place to be with all the shops and restaurants and all the festivals and everything else that goes on. Likewise, also, it helps. Always thought it helps us to build some kind of credibility because everyone in St. Louis knows where Main Street in St. Charles is. So it doesn't matter if you're South County all the way out west and Warrenton, North County, doesn't matter. You tell people, hey, we're on Main Street in St. Charles, they know exactly where we are. So let's jump into the reasons. Most of the main reasons I hear that people want to get into real estate. Number one is income potential. And if I can just harp on that for a little bit. It's kind of cliche, but it's true. The old you get out of it what you put into it. But in real estate, I could find it to be the most true statement ever. We have agents of all kinds, and depending on what you want, there are all different types of agents to be. And when I say types of agents, I mean basically production types. We have agents who sell a couple houses a year, 2, 3 houses a year. and it gives the family great vacation money, spending money, stuff that they can just go out and play with. For someone who may have a spouse that has like one income and you just need like a supplemental, man, this is a great business for that. All the way up to, we have agents that make well into the six figures. And when I say well, I mean well into the six figures. It's just a matter of what you want to get out of it. Sometimes it takes a lot of work, but I have yet to find a job where you can have such discretion over when you work and how much you make. So that is the income potential. Say, so let me just ask real quick, what do you think the average agent makes? Anybody? I'll watch the chat here for a second. 35, 55, 155. That's interesting. Okay. Actually, the average, if you use the National Association of Realtors average, it skews. It says most agents sell around 5 to 6 houses a year. I've noticed there's just two distinct differences. There's those that sell 2 to 3 and those that sell 20 to 30 or up. And I won't even get into that. That's a whole different level. There's agents out there that sell hundreds of houses a year. So, but that's like a whole different level. But yeah, most are going to range in that supplemental income to, and then it usually makes a big jump right into making decent money. So again, second reason I see people get in this business is they just love helping people out. This can be a very rewarding profession. We get to deal with all different types of people and all different types of situations. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's a little stressful. I have to give that to you, because buying a home is a very stressful proposition. Face it, we're helping people with the largest purchase of their life. And for 99% of our clients, this is the largest financial transaction they've ever made in their life. So it does come with a little stress, but it's a very rewarding job. It's helping out that first time home buyer. There's nothing like the young couple who maybe in their late 20s, and you get to hand the keys to their house and they're standing on the front porch, and wife might be 5-6 months pregnant, and you're looking at them just seeing like what their whole life is going to be now, because they're just getting started, and you realize that like these sticks and this drywall on the roof is so much more than just a hunk of wood. It's a home, and then you get to see how they're going to build it up. Likewise, when you go to deal sometimes with a seller, you get to walk in their house and look around, and I've even seen the door frame where they have like all the little markings where like they measure their kids over all the years, and it's just I don't know. I don't even know how to describe that. It's just kind of an interesting feeling. But then on the flip side, we also deal with a lot of stressful times. Someone who's selling their house because they've just lost a spouse, and you have to be compassionate towards that. A couple who was getting a divorce, and you're kind of thrust in the middle of their breakup, and that comes with its own stresses too. But I've always looked at that like, as bad as it may sound, at least I can help bring some sort of semblance, some sort of I don't know, help to that situation. A couple coming in here. All right. So yeah, helping people is a big factor. Third one is the freedom of scheduling, and this is kind of what I think is one of the biggest. Well, I should back up. This is the biggest benefit of being a real estate agent, and it's also its biggest detriment, in that real estate agents are all independent contractors. There is no one watching over our shoulder, no one telling us when we have to be somewhere or what we have to do. So on one hand, that's a really great thing, because you get to sit back and decide when you're going to work. If you're going to work today, if you're not going to work today. However, that goes back to the income potential. If you don't work today, you don't get paid today. So, so you sometimes have to look at that from its good points and its bad points. Recently, no, I shouldn't say recently. This actually a little while back. I was at one of my son's baseball games, and we're sitting there. I don't know if you have kids in sports like I have over the past. I'm sitting back and I'm just sitting here chatting with a few of the dads, and one of them said to me, "This is Mark." He goes, "I could never do your job." I said, "Well, why is that?" He said, "Man, because you get stuck working nights and weekends and carting people around, and whenever they call, you got to drop everything and run to them." And I'm like, "Well, it's kind of that way." I said, "But here's the flip side of that, though. I never missed a parent-teacher conference. I never missed a school musical. Almost never missed a baseball or softball game. Now, sometimes you'd go watch a baseball or softball game, and then you'd come home, and then you'd end up working until 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. But I got to be there through all those things. I do remember it was even kind of fun early on when our kids were real little. We had season passes to a water park, and this job afforded me the ability to get up and take the kids to a water park from 9 o'clock until noon, and then I could come in the office and work. No one else had that freedom. I remember when our kids made it to the high school level, going to some of their sporting events, and because at the high school level they had their sporting events right after school, so most of them would start roughly I don't know, around 3 o'clock or so. So I remember sitting there looking around and thinking, wow, I'm one of only 4 or 5 parents at this sporting event watching our kids. And quite honestly, I think I was the only dad who was there because everyone else had to work. So that was where I thought, yeah, it does have its downsides, but it also has its upsides. That you are in total control of your time and your schedule and your life. And we get into all that later if it's something you decide to pursue. But you do have a lot more control over your life than you might think. Now, let's talk about the duties and the responsibilities of a real estate agent. Well, I should back up. I keep using the word real estate agent. I don't know if you're familiar, but a lot of times they use the word realtor and real estate agent simultaneously. And while they're kind of the same, they're a little bit different. And briefly, I'll explain. A real estate agent is just someone who is licensed in the state to sell real estate. Pretty much all of us who are doing my job, we're all licensed by the state to sell homes. Now, realtor, that is a trademark by the National Association of Realtors for anyone who belongs to their association, which on the residential side, it's pretty much almost everybody who sells residential real estate is a member of the National Association of Realtors and sells and calls themselves a realtor. So I'm just want to put out there in case you ever hear someone talk about realtor or real estate agent and how they both kind of sound like they're the same, because they kind of are. But anyway, so getting back to my duties and responsibilities. Duties and responsibilities start with, first off, getting clients. This is I want to dispel one of the bigger misconceptions, and thanks to HGTV, this has just exploded. One of our biggest jobs is just obtaining clients to work with. Because we are independent contractors, you don't just show up at the office and they hand you 2 buyers who want to go out and look at 3 houses and write a contract on 1. It would be great if it happened that way. Unfortunately, it doesn't. So step number 1 is just obtaining clients. And we work through a bunch of different ways. That's everything from advertising, through internet ads, through postcards, through what we refer to sometimes as SOI, which is your sphere of influence, which is basically it's a fancy way of saying all your friends and family, because everybody knows somebody who's either selling a house or getting ready to sell a house. So open houses. There's a ton of different ways to actually go out and get clients, but that's step number 1. Step number two pretty much is like showing homes. Once you get a client and you're like, hey, whether you're going to do it on the listing side and you actually sell the house, or you're going to do it on the showing side, on the buyer side, I guess I should say, and you're actually showing houses, then you kind of handle those two just a little bit different because you're on the opposite ends of the contract. But showing homes is a big one. This is what a lot of people like to do. Is what a lot of people think we spend 95% of our time is just driving around looking at houses. I wish that were the case, but that's, if I would have to guess, how much time do we spend showing homes? I would say maybe 10 to 20% of the time we actually spend out showing homes. Most of the time we spend on what comes next is writing offers and negotiating contracts. That's when our expertise kind of kicks in. We write offers for our buyers, and then we present them to the sellers, and then it becomes a negotiation process of how you work out a deal between buyers and sellers. Sometimes it's real easy, sometimes it's real hard. A lot of things go into it. This is one of those areas where every situation is different. I mean, I wish I could tell you this. There's a standard, and this is how you do it. We use a standard contract, which is supplied by our Association of Realtors, but all the details are so different because everyone has different wants and needs, and that's where it's up to us as the professionals to bring these two parties together and try and get everyone on the same page. So click on this one. So after you would write the offer, then we actually negotiate the contracts out, the back and forth, coming up with our final contract price. And then once we get that, we're still on to the next step of we have to walk through the transaction. If anyone's ever bought a house before, you've probably had to deal with loan, building inspections, surveys of any kind, any other inspections, occupancy permits. If you had to do that, we're responsible for getting all of that together and bringing it all. And sometimes it's a big juggling act. It's funny. I use that analogy. Have you ever heard that we're like a duck going across the water, smooth and graceful on top, but paddling like hell below the waterline. And that's exactly what the whole process is sometimes. But anyway, it is what it is. That's what we get paid for. And then we take it right up to closing. And the closing is, if anyone's ever bought a house, that's where you sit at the table and you sign all your papers, and you either give your check if you're buying a house, or you receive your check if you're selling a house, and keys transfer, and we just move on. That is a very rewarding time. I can remember a closing I had. This was a long time ago, and it wasn't a little bit older couple. Of course, I was a lot younger then, so heck, for all I know, they were my age. But no, in all honesty, they were probably like in their mid-60s, and we went through the whole process and we signed off on everything. And like normal, I thought it was just like another closing, just another transaction. At the end, the husband, even more than the wife, really kind of started to like well up and get a little emotional. And I was kind of taken aback a little bit because, after all, I mean, this was a pretty easy process. So we just started chatting for a little bit, and like I said before, he was in his probably early to mid 60s, and he was really getting emotional because this was the first house he had ever owned. And he sat there and thought, he told me, he said, Mark, I never thought I would ever own my own house. Just where I grew up and the people I grew up with, I just thought, I was going to rent my entire life. And he said, now I actually have something I own. It's mine. He goes, those are my trees in the yard. That's my carpeting on the inside of the house. And he just really got emotional, and it kind of hit you at that point. You're like, wow, I mean, this thing we're doing is more than just slinging houses. I mean, there's a lot of people's lives are wrapped up in this, and it really kind of makes you feel good that you got to have that kind of impact on people. Now, let's talk about the reality of being a real estate agent, realtor. Call it what you want. Have you ever heard the 80-20 rule, where like 80% of the business, 80% of the work, 80% of the whatever it is done by 20% of the people. Well, I think in real estate, I find that to be a little closer to 90-10. I don't want to disrupt the status quo of the 80-20, but I think it's closer to about a 90-10. About 90% of the work in business and money is made by 10% of the people out there. Just because you have to be a self-starter if you really want to achieve that next level. And by next level, I'm talking with people who are selling more than 25 to 30 houses a year. So what we've done here is we've created an atmosphere that's welcoming to all levels. Because when we first started going into the normal retail sales, I shouldn't say going into, when we like morphed back from our foreclosure side, into the normal retail sales, I decided I wanted to create a company that was going to be all things to all people. So when an agent comes in here, and let's say they may even have a second job, or they just really don't want to come in here and work 10 hours a day, 6-7 days a week. We want to have an atmosphere here that's welcoming to them, as long as the agent who comes in and says, "Hey, Mark, I want to make $200,000 a year. I want to make $250,000 a year." Okay, then I feel I can help you with that. Again, going back to what I said originally about our time selling the bank foreclosures, and I had a team of 17 people, and we're closing 55 to 60 transactions in a month, and the fact that I've done right at about 4,000 homes sold, I feel pretty confident that I can help anyone get to the very top echelon. But at the same time, I understand that's not for everybody. Some people are very happy with coming in and selling 2 houses a year and the great vacation money that gives them. If you stop and think about that, if you're just looking for vacation money for your family, it's a pretty easy way to take your family on one heck of a nice trip. Because believe it or not, we do make pretty good money when the houses sell. So again, we created that atmosphere. So we want to do whatever it is to help you out. You are your own business. And with being your own business, as I say, you're an independent contractor, that does come with some expenses. Because likewise, as with all businesses, there is some initial capital that has to go into it. I'll run through real quick, because the barriers to entry in real estate are shockingly small. So I would not feel bad about it if you're thinking, "Oh, I don't know where this goes." We'll start off with things like the initial license school, because everyone has to get licensed. Again, the barrier to entry for licensing is pretty slim. It's a 2-week class. Basically, you can take it online. It's 60 hours, and then it follows up. 60 hours total is what it is. Yeah, it's broken down like into 2 pieces. You'll take like one half of it and take a test, and take another half, take a test, boom, you're done. That initial school runs you around $375 to about $400, depending on where you take it. So you're going to be into it for, let's just say, somewhere around $400. Then once you get done with that, then you actually have to go and take a state test. The state testing is $62 per test, and the reason I say per test is because a lot of people do not pass it the first time. Don't be discouraged if you're one of those that don't, because most don't. Actually, some of the better agents I've ever associated myself with were the ones that failed this test many times over. So yeah, don't let that bother you. Again, the state test is $62. Association dues. Now, this is where we make that step into realtor side, because now you need to join the Association of Realtors. That runs you approximately $5.25 a year. And when I say approximately, I should know exactly, but I don't remember offhand. But it's somewhere like around $5.25 a year to become a member of the association. And now, what that does also, and I should tag team in that. Along with that, there is the MLS fees, which is the multiple listing service, which allows. That's where we put all of our listings for sale. That's where we go to get all the information about listings. and your what we call our Supra key. The reason we call it Supra is because that's the company that makes the boxes. If ever you've driven by a house and you see those blue, it's like a long blue box hanging on a door, that's a universal key and box system that all of us realtors use, and everyone has like a key. I say a key, it used to be a key. Now it's just an app on your phone. So they charge you for that monthly plus the MLS. Both those together come out to roughly around $40 a month. You also have your initial license with the state. I think the state no, I don't say I think. I actually know this. The state charges $90 for that initial, and it's good for 2 years. So that's pretty much most of your hard costs. I should also say there's also a fingerprinting and a criminal background check, which isn't very expensive, $25-$35 around there somewhere, and all that gets mailed back to the state as part of your initial licensing. So once you get that done, the only other expenses you're going to have at that point are going to be business. I guess I could call it business growth related expenses. Anything for personal marketing. If you know anyone who is a real estate agent, you probably see that they send out postcards sometimes. They might advertise on Facebook. They might sometimes we buy leads from certain internet companies. If you didn't know this, here's a tidbit for you. Zillow and Realtor.com, if the general public is there searching for houses, they capture their information and they sell it off to agents like us, who then in turn try to market to those people who are actually looking for houses. So that could be something where you might incur an expense. It's any kind of personal marketing. Sometimes you use like what we call a CRM system, which is a customer relationship manager. For lack of a better term, it's like a database. So depending on how much business you do, you might want to venture into something like that. But that's all stuff you'll figure out on down the road as it goes. So pretty much that is your expenses. So do I have any questions? No, don't really see any questions quite yet. All right, if anyone has anything to pop up, please go ahead and do so. If not, I will. Give me 1 second here. Let me see what I got going on. Let me see if I can share my screen here. This one. I'll share this with you, and boom. So there you go. So in conclusion, that's pretty much the day in the life of a real estate agent. If you have any additional questions, here's a couple ways that you can get a hold of us. You can go to our website, which is join.alexrealty.com. You can send me an email, mark@alexrealty.com. That is my phone number right there. That's my cell phone. You can also scan this QR code, and this QR code will take you right to a page that has even more information on how to obtain your license and any more information you may want about us. So if you do have any additional questions, you can please feel free to reach out. If not, I will leave you at that. And I thank you for joining us. And again, have any questions, just give us a call. Thanks.